and I told them that I would ask you the first question, and then we would invite questions from the floor. So if you permit me, I'll pose the first question to you. My first question is that Singapore, as we all know, has undergone quite a dramatic transformation since independence. In fact, in my lifetime, I've seen Singapore go from a third world city to first world city. If someone were to ask you, what were the key policies and initiatives that were adopted to ensure that Singapore developed in a sustainable manner, what would you say these policies and initiatives were that were responsible for this dramatic transformation?
Well, first of all, we had an almost impossible position. Small island, no hinterland, not even enough water. And we had to make a living in around a set of newly independent countries which was determined to cut off their trade with us. So we either made ourselves unusual or we perished. And we decided to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the region. We set out to create a first world oasis in a third world region, so that we created a base for all developed countries to come here and foray into the region. And they came to trade, to manufacture. To do that, we had to have good infrastructure, which is not difficult. More difficult is to have people behave like a first world people, not a third world people. And when you move people from a shanty hut, where they have a hole in the ground for a toilet, to a high rise with a toilet flushed, it takes some time to get them not to bring their chickens and ducks up with them. But we succeeded, partly by education through the children, TV, exhortations from the leaders. And they knew that unless we behaved like a first world nation and stopped splitting and stopped behaving in a haphazard way, we would perish. That gave a tremendous motivation to the people to try and be different, and we have become different. The most difficult thing to do was to carry out the industrialization, the services, logistics, and so on, without polluting the island. Because once you pollute the island, then you destroy the living conditions. And you destroy the living conditions, then it's not worth having this place. So every project that we put up, our first concern was anti-pollution. So I remember the first petrochemical works we put up in Jurong Island with a Japanese company called Sumitomo. They wanted to bring Japanese standards in. And I knew that you would then smell the chemical works. I said, no, we'll have German standards. So we had an enormous row. They upped the price. We bargained them down, but we did not have a petrochemical complex which polluted the whole island. And that went for every project. And there was an Australian who wanted to, from West Australia, he had lots of iron. He wanted to put it on our outer island and then sell it in the region. Free rent he was going to give us. But the pollution it would cause was considerable, so we said no. So the careful attention to environment, at the same time going for growth in industry, services, logistics, got us where we are. But it was a resilient population which responded to the challenge of the day. That's how we got here.
Thank you, MM. I believe Professor Biswas, you want to ask a question, right? In front here. And then I'll pick some hands at the back. I'm sorry I can't see the hands at the back. Okay, later I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Minister Mentor, I'm privileged to be associated with a school that has your name, Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy.
Who is he?
Professor Asid Biswas. Sorry, Professor Asid Biswas.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't see you. You're in the shade.
We can't see you because the lights are very bright.
Yes.
And we can't see you.
No,
Okay.
I know that very well. One very simple but a difficult question for me. You brought Singapore from the third world to the first world. During this entire process, what was the most difficult problem you faced and how did you solve it?
The most difficult problem is to get your people to support the policies which you have to implement. The technology is there. You can buy it. You can do it yourself. But if your people do not cooperate and fit into the first world structure, it will not succeed. It depends on the amount of discipline they're prepared to observe. I mean, we had a very untidy city, litter, filth, people urinating in the streets. To stop all that, to have a litter-free country, and no vandalism, no graffiti, you need discipline. So we had graffiti experts from Switzerland and from England who came here to show that they can break our laws. Well, we caught one of them and he has to pay the penalty. It's harsh, but it's the way to keep it as it is.